Welcome back to another episode of the Illinicast. This is Sunny Verma. My co-host Austin Berkland is on vacation today. Austin, enjoy the mountains of Utah. But in his place, I have a very special guest in Zachary Weinberger, a reporter from the Palm Beach Post who covers Florida Atlantic football and basketball, and he's here to discuss tomorrow's game, which starts, I believe, at 2:30 local time between the Illinois Fighting Illini and the FAU Owls. Thanks for joining us, Zachary.
Absolutely, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Zachary, let's start off with basketball. I'm just curious. I know we're going to talk football later, and we got plenty of football to talk about. But last year, FAU went to the Final Four. What was that like for the atmosphere on the university and the fans there?
It was tremendous. I mean, I don't think it's that arguable to say that that season was the best season in FAU athletic history. To me, it's not even arguable. Absolutely tremendous. Myself, just traveling to New York and Houston for the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, eventually the Final Four. Obviously, ended in a way that maybe most fans did not want it to end. Obviously, on the last shot to San Diego State, but just still for what it brought to the university, because again, people always kind of drive in the football program, which is understood that makes maybe the most money there, but really the basketball program was something that was really on a consistent basis, a pretty good program led by Dusty May. And again, right when I started college, he was starting his career that at FAU, so just kind of seeing that sort of uphill climb was very interesting to see. And again, I thought they were going to be good last season, just kind of off of what they did the season prior. I didn't think they were going to make the tournament and go all the way to the Final Four, but it was absolutely tremendous. And again, retaining Dusty May, keeping guys like Elijah Martin, Janelle Davis, that's going to be so huge for this upcoming season. So it's going to be a fun one.
Well, speaking of this upcoming season, tomorrow isn't the only time Illinois and FAU are going to go at it in this calendar year. Obviously, we play each other in basketball too. I think the game is in December sometime. What's the outlook for the FAU basketball team this year?
Listen, they're just trying to recreate that magic, and obviously there's fans out there that are saying, well, now it's national championship or bust. I'm not going to go that route. Again, obviously first season in a new conference. My goal for me is always to just focus on winning the conference and focus on that other stuff later. But again, facing off against teams like Memphis, which they're already in the rivalry because of what happened in the tournament and these other teams, it's going to be a fun one. And again, like you said, facing Illinois. I believe that's going to be in Madison Square Garden, where
Yeah.
you really caught that magic in the Sweet 16 against Tennessee and then against Kansas State in the Elite Eight. So it's going to be a fun one. And again, I don't know if fans should really hope for a national championship, but again, this team is really good. They're not a Cinderella team like a lot of people were categorizing them last season. This is a damn good team. So I do think that they're going to recreate most of that magic. But it's going to be interesting how they face sort of that new conference schedule and especially the out of conference opponents because it's a really packed schedule.
Well, the basketball team is definitely trending positively. The football team, it might be in somewhat of a rebuild, if those are fair words. But I do want to ask you, FAU's got a pretty long history, starting with Lane Kiffin, Willie Taggart, and now Tom Herman, of some pretty notable names as head coaches. What makes FAU such a draw for the bigger names in college football that they want to coach there?
I think it's a couple variables. One, because it's South Florida and you kind of have access to that really huge hotbed of recruiting. And Herman obviously had the access in Texas, and now he has it in South Florida. But obviously, when you saw what Lane Kiffin did and what you saw what Willie Taggart did, it was kind of a way to sort of like almost resuscitate their career, almost to kind of put them back on the map. When Lane Kiffin, he was kind of on a kind of downward, but then he got with FAU, won a couple conference championships, and then obviously got the job at Ole Miss. Taggart was trying to do that, not as successful, and maybe Herman off that little hiatus he's been from college football. He wants to do the same here. But really, this is a program on the rise, so I don't want to go on here and say that FU is just a thing to stay for a couple of years and then dip. I don't think it's that sort of program, but it's a program that is on the rise. They're joining a new conference. Brian White, as the athletic director, has a vision for what he wants to see in the near future for the school. And again, it's a campus as well in terms of athletics that's really improving because before they had this place called the Oxley Center, a very sort of place that looked very old and stuff, but they built the Schmidt Center now, and it's a really nice facility with practice fields and stuff like that. So it's a program and again a campus that really can attract a lot of people, and especially with the success of the basketball program, the history of even Howard Schnellenberger, who created the football program. There is a lot of rich history even in its young infancy. So again, it's something. It is a location, especially in Boca Raton, that it's very nice. So again, we definitely have seen the recruits and the results really pan out so far.
So your new head coach has been there for about what 9 months now, Tom Herman. How would you grade those 9 months?
So I think in terms of the off season, the spring, the summer, I think it's a really good grade there. Now again, from what we've seen on the field, again, I'm not gonna. I've always said there when it's a new head coach, there's gonna be some growing pains, and obviously we've seen that, especially in terms of injuries. Because again, I also thought the team was maybe starting to rebuild a little bit, but then when they got Casey Thompson, I said, well, that means this team is ready. They think they're ready to win. And again, obviously, 3 games into the season, he's out with a torn ACL, which was a bummer for him. And we'll see if he wants to, have a medical red shirt and do another season there. But again, I think we're going to see the true colors of this team come conference play because this game against Illinois, especially from Daniel Richardson and this new look offense and the defense, they're going to get ready, especially how they got hit in the mouth against Clemson, and then even that disappointment against Ohio. So far in the regular season, it's definitely been disappointing for a lot of fans. But I will say this: I always say that the conference schedule is always more important. We were never going to win against Clemson, in my opinion, and then even Illinois, maybe a better chance, but still, Illinois outmatches FAU in a lot of ways. So it's going to be interesting to see. So I would say the grade is TBA on the season because again, I need to see how they really perform in conference play and if they get outmatched a lot or not.
And you mentioned Casey Thompson. Illinois fans are very familiar with him. As you said, he got hurt last weekend. How do the FAU dynamics change with Daniel Richardson at the helm as opposed to Casey?
So I think in terms of talent wise, Casey has the talent, he has the football IQ, but really I don't think it's going to be that much of a decrease, and that might be because the past 2 weeks on offense it really hasn't been that great. And if there's one thing you could say about Daniel Richardson is that he's been here since the spring. That because Casey got here in May, and since the spring, Daniel Richardson was the starting quarterback in my opinion. He looked like QB1 there. So he has that built-in chemistry with the guys. Just speaking to not only Coach Charlie Fry and some of the players on staff like a LaJohntay Wester, they have such huge credit and such huge respect for Daniel Richardson. Even besides on the field, they're just close friends off the field. So, and also a South Florida native. Again, he looks sharp. He looks comfortable in the offense as he should. So again, I don't know if it's going to be that much of a decrease of play, especially from what we got. And so, again, I think Daniel Richardson's up for the task. Again, has that D1 big game experience at Central Michigan. So he's been in these big game atmospheres as well, which could possibly help, for tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting. But again, I think D Rich is ready for the challenge.
Well, there could be quite the challenge ahead of him as Illinois' defense pretty much woke up for about 2.5 quarters last weekend against Penn State. What kind of offense is that Illinois defense going to be looking at when it comes to FAU?
Well, they're going to be looking at FAU, Charlie Fry, Tom Herman. They really want to run a balanced attack, a spread offense, a lot of motion there, pre-snap there, using guys like LaJohntay Wester and Tony Johnson. And we'll see if Jaquan Burton plays because he suffered I think he might be still in protocol from the Ohio game. But again, especially when it comes to the running back position, the running game is so important for this team, and it's very hurt right now. Larry, I think, is going to Larry McCammon. I think he's going to play, but he's still not 100%. Same thing with Kobe Lewis. Zuberi Mobley now is not playing this Saturday. Might be out for the season. Waiting to confirm on that. So it's going to be interesting to see who kind of steps up for the Owls in that running game. Guys like Kayvon Walker or Robert Armas could be people that Illinois should maybe look out for. An experienced offensive line as well. There a lot of snaps are in D1 college football that Ed Warner has coached this team on. So I mean, again, that Illinois defensive line is stout. So that's going to be a very interesting sort of dynamic and paradigm because the war in the trenches this Saturday could prove to be what the result's going to be at the very end of the day. But D. Rich, he's very efficient. So you maybe not looking for the home run ball a lot, maybe singles, doubles, triples, that type of baseball analogy. But again, he has the receivers to maybe go down the field. So there's a lot of ways this FAU offense can really attack defenses, which is why before the season I thought they were going to be really exciting. They were really exciting on paper, especially with Casey there. Now it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe there's a little bit of a mystery there with D. Rich, having a full week of preparation for this defense. So I'm interested to see what happens.
I'm interested in seeing what our quarterback does too, as Luke Altmaier had a fantastic first 2 games to kick off the season, and then he had some young quarterback problems when it came up to Penn State with the 4 interceptions. What kind of defense is he going to be going up against?
So again, speaking of that Illinois defensive line, the FAU defensive line is a problem, and a problem in a good way for FAU. Again, Evan Anderson is a game wrecker in all sense of the word. Definitely one of the better players in the American, in my opinion. But even behind him, you have guys like a Jacob Berryfield, a Latrell Jean, a Jaden Wheeler, a Carius Hawthorne. That defensive line group is tough. So that's going to be again another side of that war of the trenches, where it's going to be the Illinois offensive line versus that defensive line. Going to be a really huge test. I've always had concerns going into the season with the DBs and the linebackers, and it's sort of the back seven sort of thing, because again, losing guys like an Armani Eli Adams in the beginning of the season, he's out for 8 weeks. You're hoping guys like Smoke Mungeon, who's been with the program for a long time, Jaden Williams, maybe in the linebacker group, Jalen Wester, who was so exciting last year. We haven't seen a huge explosiveness from them. So I feel like Illinois is going to really attack deep, quick to start this game in that way. But guys like a Jackson Ambush, who's an Albany State transfer for FAU, has been very productive. So again, they play a lot of zone here at FAU, and I'm wondering if they're going to change it up to man to see if they're going to maybe try to pressure Altmaier. But I think that's kind of the first thing, the key for this defense. You got to get at the quarterback quickly, because again, Luke Altmaier might kind of dice up this team and kind of get back on track.
So if I told you tomorrow I looked ahead at the score and FAU came out with an upset in Champaign, how would you say the game track? What happened in that game?
I think they started off fast on offense, and I think they got at the quarterback very quickly on defense. And to me, that's the two big keys of this game. Because again, you look at an Illinois team like this, you see a lot of position groups that can outmatch FAU just because of the talent wise and where both teams are at this certain time. But again, if the offense and Tom Herman and Charlie Fry try to change up some things here, do something different here to start off the game, I think that we can see possibly an upset alert. I still have my questions about about the final score and stuff like that. But again, you're going to see a lot of pressure here, and try to see a lot of fast offense to start the game.
All right, Zachary, do you have any final predictions for a score? Or are you going to hold that to the vest for now?
I think the score that I've been kind of going through my head for quite a while, I think it was like a 28-13 Illinois win I had, where I think that first half might be very kind of like a slugfest, a defensive slugfest. Maybe that FAU keeps it close by a field goal in the first half, but then maybe Illinois kind of trails away towards in the second half there. So I'm going to say Illinois wins, but once again, I think we're going to see a much more competitive Owls than what we saw last week. And even though some fans might want to see an upset here, again, I feel like this team, when battle tested for this time, maybe during conference play, it's going to prove out to be wonders. So I'm interested to see how D. Rich especially battles Illinois here. But I'm going to say an Illinois win, but maybe, again, competitive in that first half.
Fair enough. Hi, Zachary. We appreciate your time today. Where can followers and listeners to this podcast find you?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Zach Weinberger. You can see my name here on the stream there. And then also you can find my written stuff at the Palm Beach Post, pbpost.com. Same thing on Twitter. And again, we're gonna have some coverage of about FAU. We have had coverage this past week, going to have in the future. So it's gonna be a fun season.
And hopefully you and I will be able to reconnect once the basketball teams face off in Madison Square Garden.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Zachary, thank you for your time today.
Bye.
Once again, that's Zachary Weinberger from the Palm Beach Post. Please, if you can, if you're watching this video, like, subscribe to this podcast. It costs you nothing. It helps us out a lot. We would really, really appreciate it. Do me a favor. Send me a screenshot of you subscribing to our YouTube channel, to our Twitter account at Illinicast, and you'll be in the drawing for future tickets to any home game left in the season. Once again, thank you very much, and go Illini.